Well, thank you very much for being here. For me, it's an honor. Second year in a row at SoccerX, and for me, it's a privilege to get to talk to Rafaela, who is one of the most powerful people in the football industry, or soccer, if you want to call it that way. So I want to begin with you, Rafaela, talking a little bit about the role. Is your mic on?
Let's see. Hi. Yeah.
Well,
Do you hear me?
we hear you very low, so we're gonna
low. Yeah.
we're gonna work on
Yeah.
that. So Rafaela is a football agent, is a football person, and she manages some of the top players in the world. But I want this to be a very candid conversation about the role of the agents in the world of football. And of course, you being a football person, where do you see football going in the future? But I wanted to get you the chance to introduce yourself a little bit to the people here.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for your words. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. I hope I don't bore you too much with my story. I am a woman in football. We call it football. I hope we all know we're talking about soccer. And I'm Brazilian. I live in Europe. I've been doing this for 30 years, which means I was like 1 year old when I started. And, and I'm also a lawyer. So I'm a mix of a bunch of stuff. I am an immigrant because I'm a Brazilian living in Europe, which makes me an outsider when I'm there. I'm also an outsider when I'm in Brazil because I live too long in Europe. So life is what it is. I love what I do. I put a lot of passion in it. There's lots of downsides. There's also upsides. But above all, what is very, very interesting is to see the changes. When you spend a lot of time in something, you see it grow and you see it develop, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But I think it's the most amazing experience is to see how football is changing, becoming more and more relevant, more important for communities, for the finances of a country sometimes, and for each one of us. The changes that football is going through are so big that I like to say there's not football alone anymore. Football now comes in a package, football and entertainment. And there's nobody that can work football and entertainment together better than Americans, because you guys are the creators, in my view, of everything that is big, that is overdoing it, that is making noise, that is building around it. I like to say something that I say as a big joke, because I'm actually a fan. I'm not criticizing at all, but I always say, if you guys could build the Kardashians, you can build anything. Because, I mean, take Haaland that can score with his hair. I think there's so much to be done in there. And I think it's actually putting together two universes. The universe of what is making it big, making it loud, making it off the pitch, and the universe of on the pitch. That's what Europeans do so good.
Now you get into that, and I'm going to go to my first question after that, because you gave me the perfect segue. So how do you see football, and because you've been in this for the last 30 years, how do you see the growth of football, of soccer in the US, and particularly the growth of the domestic league, Major League Soccer?
I tell you what is challenging. What is challenging in my view in the US is that competitions in the US are very much about the show. So we go watch the NBA, we're happy to see a beautiful game. We're happy to see and eat the hot dog and bring the kids and everything. But at the end of the year, I don't think the Lakers supporters will put fire at the house of the president because they lost the league.
You think there's a lack of passion?
No, I think it's a different culture. I think it's completely different, and competition matters as much as the final result. It is important to win, to be on the top, but there is a balance between being on the top and also delivering a very beautiful show. And what I think is challenging is that European football is very, very much about results. It doesn't matter if it's a horrible game and it's 1-0, it's good enough, we won, go home. Next week we see each other again. And I think that would not be entertaining enough for American audience. American audience maybe wants to see every game as something that is very, very much satisfying, not what will happen at the end of the season. And maybe that is the challenge, to balance. And this is a big challenge also when you have American owners of European clubs. There's a conversation we have with them many, many times that is, what is it you're trying to achieve, and does it resonate with the audience that maybe is expecting something else? Not saying one is better than the other, I'm just saying it's different. And you put together in this sauce the fact that there's always a new generation coming, and they are the ones that really are passionate about football. The tendency is that kids are much more in love than somebody that is 50 years old. And these kids have a different way of viewing it, because kids today, they want quick results.
Yeah.
They want quick answers. They want to see something happening very quick. And is it possible to see something happening very, very quick when you have a championship that lasts 1 year, a pitch that is super big and you cannot score 10 goals per game? Is it satisfying enough for the younger audience? These are the challenges that we face for the future.
And do you think it's achievable to go for results and as well be on top on the business side, on the entertainment side?
I think it is. I think it is. You look at Inter Miami. I think there's lots of satisfaction from the fans. There's lots of entertaining, and there is results that are achieved. So I think it is. But I think it's, for Europe, it would be a change of mentality.
Let me change the subject and go straight to what you do. And when I say what you do, that's when I would love for you to give us a comprehensive, recap of what an agent in the modern day does in football. Because it's not, people has this notion that you negotiate contracts and of course you're worried about sponsorship for your athletes, but I'm guessing there's more to that, right?
Well, I tell you what I was doing yesterday from the plane, because I flew in yesterday and there was Wi-Fi in the plane. I was buying Dutch candy for a client because he only eats Dutch candy. And it is very important for him to have the Dutch candy. And that's something we do. But at the same time that we're doing this, we are probably discussing as we speak maybe the biggest deal in football history that has ever existed, and that we'll probably announce in a few weeks. So there's so many nuances to what we do that's what makes it colorful, right? And I said this to you the other day at the UEFA agents course. It is not the time of agents anymore. It is the time of agencies. When I started this business, the one-man show had a lot of space. Mino Raiola, my partner, had a lot of space. George had space, and Jonathan had space, and that's the one-man show. And it was nice, because the one-man show would do the transfers, and we could transfer people, and when it was September, the transfer window was closed. Oh, let's go to Miami. Why? Because there's no football. And we go there, and we go eat in a Cheesecake Factory,
Not
and
anymore.
it's amazing. Well, I don't eat in Cheesecake Factory anymore, so I don't get fat. But also what happens is there's no time to go to the Cheesecake Factory, because now in the times of agencies, every time of the year is a different challenge, because as soon as you finish transfers, you're thinking of the sponsors. Now when you finish sponsors, maybe it's time to think of the next window. And that's why I say the one-man show today cannot succeed. And if you want to be in this industry, and if you want to enter, or if you are already as an agent, I think we all need to be humble and understand that it's not about our ego to say, I am the agent of. This is the agency of. Because the agency of can provide 360-degree services that go from transfers, career planning, sponsor, advising finances. Maybe you want to buy a house, and maybe you want to get married and you need a prenup. But also, maybe you want somebody to support you organizing your holidays. And when you have a sponsor, there is a photo shoot. I think in my office, we check and approve at least, and I'm not kidding you, at least 10,000 pictures per month. Because it's the Instagram.
For a player?
For the group of players.
Oh, for the group of players.
So there's the Nike photo shoot, and they will send you at least 5,000 pictures after the Nike shoot so that you can approve them. And then there is the film, and then there is the Instagram pages. So there's so much to do that if an agent claims that he's able to do it all, he's either Superman or an idiot. It's not possible.
To that point, you're painted a picture where you need a big structure to manage a player, right?
Yep.
How do you keep the other part alive? Because I'm pretty sure that for the player to be happy with his or her agent, there has to be a connection, right? So within that structure, how do you keep that part alive?
Uh, I'll go back to a very old movie at this point, and that is Jerry Maguire. And it's funny because it always comes to my mind when somebody says this. It's really, I'm not even a fan of Jerry Maguire, but that is something that they said at that time, that is, we need less clients. Yes?
That's 90 something about when you were starting in this business.
It was like a 1-year-old, and there was, had the movie on. So that is, it is my view. I'm not saying it's wrong when it's different, but these agencies with 800 players, 1,000 players, 200 players, this stops being personal. These are platforms. These are platforms where there's an owner, and there's all these agents working for the platform. Are they aligned with the philosophy of the agency? Are they aligned with the mission of the agency? Or are they smaller agents that are not able to succeed alone, jump on board of a famous name just until they find Neymar and then they jump off? I don't know. It's not my problem. It's not my business model. My business model is we have 40 to 50 players in the agency, always did, always will. It will never be different.
That's a cap?
Yeah. It's a cap. I fired 2 players the other week because I wanted 2 other players. And why is it a cap? Because if you're not honest to yourself or to your client, that doesn't work. And if I go to the house of a player and I look at the eyes of the mother, of the father, of a kid and say, I will take care of you, and then you never see me again, that's not okay. And it is not possible to have 100 players because that's 100 mothers, 100 fathers, 100 girlfriends, 100 dogs. And also, but above all, how can you watch the games? Because if you have 300 players, you go what? See the player 1 day per year?
But is that a task that you put to yourself? Because one could think that at this point, you would have people watching games for you. I mean,
we do.
And for sure I'm sure you enjoy watching games. But
I do.
When it's your job, it becomes difficult. And when you have 50, although it's not that many, it's complicated.
When you have 50 players, they're not at the same age gap. So you have, I have 2 players that are 11 years old, which you cannot really call players because they're kids, and you have somebody that is already 40. And in this different mixed zone, you find the ones that are performing, the ones that are still playing with the kids, and so and so on. Of course, in an agency, at least in our case, we have people watching these games for a reason. That will watch the game, that will give feedback, and that will say, why did you go to the left when you went to the right? When I go to the game, I am just a supporter. I am just watching and yelling at the referee because my player is always right. But I go there for the emotion of it. And I know that going there for the emotion of it means a lot as well, because I hear from the players, why you don't come to my game? And I go like, why should I go to your game? I'm not your trainer. I'm not your technical director from the company. I'm not a physio. Why do you want me there? But you could see the game, no? Of course, and that's the nice part of it. And if you don't have passion for it, and if you don't feel like doing it, that's the wrong job for you.
I've heard many stories that you told about your experiences and also being a woman in this business and how it was challenging, at least at first, right? But now I'm just wondering, what's the worst fire that you had to put out in your career? Like an emergency from a player or really a situation that you thought, this couldn't have crossed my mind before?
I'm not sure I can tell you this. Well, I have a player that tells me that every problem he comes up with gets worse. And one day we woke up to something that was, I cannot tell you this. I've seen
come
it all.
on, you already started.
I've seen it all. I'll just say that, that this player said, in this day the player said, Rafa, this was golden ball. I said, yes, that was golden ball. And there was something horrible. Well, we see it all. I think the nice part is that we don't tell people what we see when it's horrible. But I have to say, there's everything. There's cases where you're sleeping and somebody calls you, and it really happened. Rafa, my house was robbed. Okay, I'm very sorry. Yes. Did you hear it was robbed? Yes. Did you call the police? No, I called you. Okay, I'm in another country. What can I do for you, you know? So it's nice, it's endearing, and of course it's always an honor when somebody comes to you before going to somebody else, and we've seen it all, and I think what matters is that when we see it all, we learn also maybe to anticipate and say, listen, there is a trap 2 steps ahead. You're gonna fall. Do you wanna fall? Because you will fall. I'll help pick you up, but maybe when you get up, you're broken. And still nobody listens because everybody needs to learn by their own mistakes. That's...
I need to ask you of one of your highest profile clients, Erling Haaland, because I'm wondering if you envision, we all saw his talent from before he was joining even Borussia Dortmund or even Salzburg. But did you envision him growing that quickly into Premier League, being that one of the toughest leagues in the world? We're talking about 74, 75 goals in 77 games. I know playing for a good team, that helps, but did you envision that quick of an adaptation for him?
But if I tell you that when we talk between ourselves, we are frustrated that we think it was too little, because we expected more.
In terms of what?
In more goals, in more everything, because that's how we are. We should always want more, and if you let the player stop, it gets too easy. It gets too comfortable. Yeah, I'm here now. It's not enough to be there. Now, please be the top scorer. Now, please, can you get the stupid golden ball? And so on, because that keeps everything alive. And that's about the dream, the passion, because people don't believe me when I say this, but I don't think that super players chase money. I never met a super performing player that goes after money. Money comes, but they go after the trophy, they go after the super awards. I remember when France won the World Cup, I had 4 players on the pitch, and we went to this party of the families, and one of the wives of a player was with me, and they were arriving with the cup and everything, and you can imagine the level of enthusiasm. But she was not a football person, and she was just starting with him. So she looks at me and she says, why is it so much? I mean, is this the bigger award? And I just tell this story to say that if you're not really into it and inside this bubble we live in, that trophy means nothing. Because honestly, for me, the trophy of the NFL, with all respect, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but it's the journey that got you
there.
It's
the journey. Right? So when you're invested in it, it's amazing. And I think when you chase that and you keep the dream alive, that's when you keep a player performing. And to go back to Erling, what I think people missed was COVID years. The thing is, because Erling came from a small club to Dortmund, and in Dortmund, right, he was there like, I don't know, 6 months, and it was COVID. Stadiums were closed, there was not so much communication, and everybody was so focused on their own problems, of course, that what was happening in Germany, Erling Haaland scoring goals, had no impact. And out of a sudden, COVID finishes, and a bit after, he goes to the Premier League. So I think there is a missing gap in reading Erling Haaland. That is his Dortmund years. And then out of a sudden, life was back, Premier League was there, and Erling was there. And then he was overperforming, but he was overperforming in Dortmund as well, as much as he was overperforming before, and before since he was a kid. We just missed his growing phase.
As an agent, you must be able to identify talent. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it might be a little bit more difficult to identify personality or character. So do you feel you've gotten better at
Yes.
that special matter of your job?
That I would say yes, because my job is not to identify the talent. I'm not a scout. I have scouts. They identify the talent. And normally what they do is they say, this we think is a player for us. Go talk to him. Because that would be a bit my perception, my part of the job, because we play as a team. We're all together in the adventure. My part is to see the mother, see the father, see the player and say, can I use bad language? Yes, good. This will fuck me up. This will be a good client. Because as much as they're bad agents, they're horrible players as well. They're not all nice at 100%. So when we understand where we're going, sometimes it can be a super talent, but we let go. And then my scouting team is super angry at me. It will not work. Either because he will not work, or he will do bad for us. It's better not to do it.
We're running out of time, but I need to ask you about workload on players, because we've had FIFPro and some leagues in Europe just going after FIFA for the Club World Cup, not just the Club World Cup, but as a far cry of what are we going with this amount of games that players have to play. So what do you envision that battle going?
We had a meeting in UEFA on Monday before I came here. And there was lots of medical data that was shared by UEFA because everybody's trying to understand what is the proper workload, what can we do. I think in a way, the first battle is won. That is, we all understand it cannot keep on growing. If you take some players that for the last 2 years had 1 week of holidays, because they go so far in Champions League, because they have national team, because this and that, when you see it's pre-season. Mm-hmm. While I had Haaland, for example, that had 37 days of holidays this year. And of course he overperforms when Premier League starts because he's also more rested than the others. So the workload, I think, has achieved its peak, and everybody agrees to that, which is very good. Now the next step is, what do we do about it? And there's many theories what to do about it, but I tell you what I think. I think you cannot stop the ambition or the will or even the greed of having more and more competitions. Because today, due to access to technology, due to access and let's say costs of transportation going lower, it is much easier to organize a competition. I can understand when the World Cup was created, it had to be every 4 years because it would take 4 years to organize it. Oh my God, it's now in Brazil. How do we get there? Are there hotels in Amazonia? Go on Google, are there hotels in Amazonia? So if we get together today and say, let's organize the Soccer X tournament, it's happening in 6 months. We don't need 4 years to organize anything anymore. That's why FIFA has free time and they want to create other things. That's why UEFA has so many ambitions of other competitions, and so on and so on. There's competitions being born every day. This cannot be stopped. We cannot go against our own times, not only because of that, because there's consumers for the competitions. There was a lady from women's football, she's technical. She asked in this meeting on Monday, but do the audience want to see more competitions? I ask you guys, you all have Netflix. If in the weekend you don't have 10 new things to see on Netflix sucks. That's only 3 new movies. But when I was a kid, it was good enough to have the summer release of Hollywood movies. It's summer, the movies are coming. So it's different now. There's possibility and there are people to watch content. So what do football people want to do? Provide content. And there comes the story of the player. How do we play these players so long and so much? My opinion, I think the tendency will be clubs will have more players. If you have more players, you can spread them through the competitions. I think it's more realistic to think there will be more players than to think we're going to stop people from creating competitions. They have more players, I'm happier because I make more money. So they have more players, but then of course, you go see Liverpool, everybody wants to see Salah, right? So what you do? Because you buy the rights for this competition because of Salah, but so do you. When these clubs come to the US in the summer to play this fantasy tournament, everybody's angry if Salah doesn't play. So how do I do it with Salah, for example? I play him less. I play him less minutes. I play him in here, in here, in here, but instead of 90 minutes, I play him less. And then come the player, but I want to play the whole game. Yeah, but then don't complain. So that's also, it's a bit of a compromise, right? But if the player says, I understand I cannot play it all because they're too much, then maybe we'll find a new balance.
Rafaela.
Interesting.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. It's been a lovely
Thank you.
conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rafaela
Thank you,
Pimenta.
guys. Thank you.